Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to talk about the waiver wire for week 4. But before I do, man, hey, if you can, please hit that like button, leave a comment. We're always happy to hear from you guys and want to talk about how your fantasy team is doing. It is obviously pure chaos after week 3, but we're going to deal with it. And we're going to talk about who you need to pick up on the waiver wire this week. Now, I first started looking at quarterbacks, and really there's not a lot here, man, that I'm really interested in. Hopefully you're not in a situation where you need to pick up a quarterback. But if you do, the top 3 that I would look at are Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, and Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a distant third on this list. All these guys, according to Sleeper, are owned in less than 36% of leagues, so they should be all widely available. And obviously, Sam Darnold's been on fire, and he was injured this past week, but everybody's saying that he's going to be okay for week 4. So I think he's fine. He's a fine pickup. So let's move beyond that. Let's go to the running backs now. Obviously, we've got injuries starting to set in. Some players really sinking in their ability. You know, we got several players going to IR. But I think the top pickup right now would be Chuba Hubbard. I got to say, man, Carolina looked like a completely different team with the change in quarterbacks. And I think that just shows you how bad the quarterback play was with with Bryce Young. So hopefully this puts them on a better path. I actually was very much in on Chuba Hubbard during the preseason because I saw what he did last year. I saw what he did where he took over that backfield. He basically took it from the other Miles Sanders, who was signed to a big $6 million a year contract to play there, then just basically benched him and played the rest of the season himself. I'm not surprised to see what he did this past week. He had 21 touches, 5 targets. That's elite level usage, right? I'm not saying that he's an elite level running back because he's not, but with that sort of usage, that's something you cannot deny. He would probably be my top pickup of the week. My top waiver wire choice would be Chuba Hubbard if he is available in your league. Now, some other names that were very good. We've got Emmanuel Wilson, who, despite the fact that Josh Jacobs was healthy, got 12 touches and 2 targets. That puts him right below my threshold. My threshold for running backs is typically 15 touches and targets total for me to be able to want to try them out as a flex, right? That would say, okay, I think they're good enough to play in the flex. But Emmanuel Wilson looks like a really solid number 2. Marshawn Lloyd's got a hamstring injury, has not played at all with this team. He suffered the injury at the very beginning of training camp, so he's had no reps with this team. I don't see any clear path to him coming in quickly. And Emmanuel Wilson has been very effective with what he's been given, and definitely worth a pickup and a stash on your bench for now. But if anything happens to Josh Jacobs, I think this guy is a smash start. We've also got some of these perennial backups. We got Braylon Allen. We've got Bucky Irving. These 2 guys, again, just under the threshold. Braylon Allen had 11 touches and 3 targets with the New York Jets. And Bucky Irving had 9 touches and 3 targets with Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving has been outstanding on the ground, has just been completely dominating Rachaad White. So I think he's absolutely going to be a guy that's going to take over this backfield sooner probably than later. So I think both those guys are priority targets. Cam Akers in Houston obviously got the start this past week with Mixon being injured. So Cam Akers got 9 touches and 3 targets. Houston is a good team. They had a bad game this past week. That stuff happens. I believe it was a divisional game this week. I think they're both in the same division. So I think, he's definitely worth being in there, being on your bench, although I wouldn't want to start any of these guys. And then also Rashawn Johnson looks great. Swift looks like garbage. And Rashawn Johnson was the only one getting any production in that backfield. So I can see his role continuing to grow. He got 8 touches and 4 targets. So all those running backs are good. But if I had to pick one, I picked Chuba. Probably 2 would be Bucky Irving. Then Emmanuel Wilson, Braylon Allen, Rashawn Johnson, Cam Akers. That's just off the top of my head. I think Roschon should be a little bit higher than that. But anyway, there's lots of good names on the board for running backs this week. So go ahead and grab one or two of those guys if you can. Now, obviously, the big wide receiver that everybody's going to want to pick up this week is Juwan Jennings, who got 12 targets this past week with San Francisco. Obviously came out of nowhere, got 3 touchdowns, like 175 yards. It's crazy. I do not think this is a trend. This was mostly because both Deebo Samuel and George Kittle were declared out on Sunday morning. He kind of came in and filled the gap. I do not think he's going to be anything going forward other than a bench stash. And this team has so much depth with their playmakers. I just don't see him being someone who is that you really want, that you really want. Now, some guys that I think you do want. First one, if you can get him, check your waiver wire, man. See if he's there. Rome Odunze, who had very quiet week 1, week 2. Week 3 really came on, got his first touchdown with his quarterback. That was exciting this past week. 11 targets, and clearly is the future of the Chicago Bears receiving core. So I think that he's absolutely worth the pickup if you can get him. And all the other guys, they're not really guys that interest me too much, except as depth pieces, players you're going to put on your bench, but you're not going to start them. From Las Vegas, Trey Tucker, Jacob E. Myers, also from Las Vegas, Demario Douglas of New England, Michael Wilson of Arizona, Wan'Dale Robinson of New York Giants, Little Jordan Humphrey of Denver. All these guys got at least 8 targets this past week. That's really nice volume. That's really good volume. I don't know if I trust any of them though. They're going to be all over the place with their usage. A lot of them are on very poor offenses. So you take what you can get. But they are definitely worth getting onto your bench, especially if you've got like injured players or you got wide receivers that aren't doing anything. These guys could do something. You never know. And then moving on, tight end, just a couple of names. And I think most of these guys, neither one of these guys, I would start this next week. I think it was just mostly game flow, game script. But Cole Kmet got 11 targets this past week. Cade Otton got 8. I don't think either of those are like legitimate harbingers of what's going to happen going forward. Obviously, the Chicago offense is stocked with playmakers. I think it was just game flow that made Kmet the best option this week, but he's probably going to disappear next week. Same with Cade Otton. He's just hot and cold. He hasn't really ever kind of broken out. He's had good games, but he's never really broken out as a player. And he is in year 3. This is kind of a make or break year for him as far as, is he going to be like someone that is going to be fantasy relevant? Right now, both these guys are bench plays, but if you need a tight end, and there have been a couple of tight end injuries, you maybe need one, these guys are good to add to your bench. Finally, let's look at the defenses for upcoming for week 4. Some of the some of the defenses I'm most interested in right now. The Tennessee Titans are at the Miami Dolphins. That's going to be a great play as long as Tua is out. The Bengals are at Carolina. We could see some real serious regression from Andy Dalton. Let's not forget, Andy Dalton is a bad quarterback at this point in his career. He came out off the bench and played very well this week, but what you often see is after that great initial week, they regress horribly. Defenses learn how to play against him and how to stop him, and I think that's going to happen. I think the Bengals are going to relentlessly pressure Andy Dalton to get him to go back into his own ways. We've got the Rams at Chicago. Obviously, Caleb Williams is just a gift for defenses, so go with that. The Bears are at the Rams, and the Bears defense actually looks pretty good, way better than the offense does. So, I think either of those defenses are probably good plays this next week. I was actually surprised at how well the Rams did this week against the Niners, but that was a divisional game. There was a lot of stakes there, not as many stakes this year. I think they're going to regress a bit this week. And then finally, the Cardinals are playing Washington at home. And so those are the defenses I would look to pick up if you're streaming that position, which I do. But those would be my favorites for week 4. So there it is. That's it. Quick and easy, down and dirty. Go check your waiver wire, see what guys are available, and put in some bids. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have yourself a great week 4, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.